Record.
All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Simpson, founder of AIELOC, or the Association of International Educators and Leaders of Color. We focus on amplifying the work of international educators and leaders of color. Our big three, as we like to call it, are advocacy, learning, and research. Today, we are excited to be joined by Aparna Sundaram. She currently works with the Diversity Collective. They are a recruiting and consulting agency that advances diversity. They're a people of color owned and operated organization. They work to place exceptional leaders and educators in schools around the world. Welcome, Aparna.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Definitely. Let's learn a little bit more about Aparna. So during her 30-year career in education, 3 decades now. Now, Aparna, you know you do not look like you've been 3 decades in.
We're best friends now, Kevin.
Hey, we're grateful for that graceful look and that, as we move into, more years into the education space. She's been a teacher, a department chair, an administrator, a DEIJ consultant with more than 12 years of recruitment experience in international and independent schools. Aparna understands the challenges of navigating predominantly white spaces as a person of color and the sweet sense of belonging in racially diverse settings. She is the former member of the Independent Schools Association of Central States Equity and Justice Committee, where she helped rewrite the equity and inclusion standards for accreditation, and is a founding board member of Cleveland's South Asians for Justice and Equity. As the mother of biracial, bicultural children who attend an international school, and I love this part, and I was going to make sure I read it for her. This work is not only professional for her, but it's also personal. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, very much.
Oh,
It's very
definitely. All right. So we got 3 questions. I like to call this the quick fire. So our first question is just to tell us about your work and tell us about the Diversity Collective.
Well, I think you already addressed it, right? That we're a recruiting and consulting agency that's really committed to improving the diversity of faculties and leaders in schools around the globe. So that you nailed. And I think you also know, because of the work you do with AIELOC, although we've made some progress in this area, there's still a large gap to close, right? Even if I were just to take the US where you are, I believe currently the principals of color are about 11% in all the schools, right? Whereas students of color are 50%. In international schools, I believe heads of school who are women are less than 1 in 4, right? So we created this organization to help move that work forward. And we do it in a few different ways. The thing I really would like to share with you all is that we have designed a platform and created a platform where candidates from historically marginalized groups, so people of color, women, the LGBT plus community, they can post their credentials, their CVs, their bios, and they can connect with school employers for free. And in addition, we want our school partners to be able to promote their job openings, attract diverse talent, and then access our other services as they need. And so to that point, the Diversity Collective, we also do offer guidance and resources and consulting to schools who are trying to, or who might want help in attaining those diversity, equity, and inclusion goals they've set for themselves. I think in a nutshell, we're just aiming to help schools expand opportunities for underrepresented educators, right? To be leaders, to be heads of school, to be faculty.
I love it. And lots of things that you said, especially in terms of being a resource and support, not only to educators and leaders, but also to schools and organizations. But you said something that I think is FREE. So folks can go on and we'll find out where they can go on before we end to register, to access, and to upload their information. Again, our big thing is identifying those individuals, those organizations that are really, we'll get to that third question, radically dreaming, thinking about sort of where we are, but then thinking and taking actions to where we could be. And you stated a lot, especially around the data. We know if we say international school leader, if we were to ask someone to draw what an international school leader, I know, because I do it with mathematicians, draw a mathematician. And so I remember I actually had a teacher have her scholars draw an international school teacher before, and then I had them draw an international school leader. And guess what? Based on the data that you shared, I mean, it did not mirror women, a person of color, a person from that actual country where those scholars were. Exactly. So it's always telling, and it lets us know that we all have work to do. So thank you for that. So one of my favorite questions to ask folks is, and I think we heard it in your bio, which is why I wanted to read that last piece, because it's like you're saying, it's not just professional, it's personal. But what do you see as your why?
So you kind of answered that as well, right? So it is personal and it is professional, right? Personally, and people have heard me talk about this before, but it stems from my own experience as a student of color. I went preschool through 12th grade without ever having a teacher of color. And so forget about expecting a leader or a principal to look like me. And despite I was always being told you're getting the best education, and I was privileged. I went to private school from preschool through 12th grade. And yet I felt like unseen, and I lacked a relatable role model. And then when I went into this profession of teaching, I too also got the personal experience of what it's like to be the only one in a school, right? And the additional work that comes with that, and the isolation that comes with that. But then personally, I also had the amazing experience of working in schools deeply committed to representation, right? And I saw the positive impact that has on students and faculty alike. And so for me, that's personal. And then as you mentioned, I want the schools that my own children go to be valuing this. I want my own children to be able to see people like them or with shared experiences as them leading, right? And being creative and teaching them. And then professionally, as you mentioned too, the research is overwhelming, right? That diverse representation benefits all students, regardless of their backgrounds, right? And when we can share space with people who have different lived experiences than our own, it just broadens our own perspectives and enriches them. And I'm sure, Kevin, you've seen this in your work too. I think a lot of schools have made strides in diversifying their student body, right? But the faculty and leadership don't follow suit. And so these students who are diversifying these schools aren't seeing their own identities represented, right? And therefore we're underserving them, right? They're not actually getting their needs met in every way in order to reach their full potential. And so I think that's part of the reason that I want to do this, right? It just shows that when research also shows that when we have people from different backgrounds at that decision-making table, the decisions just naturally tend to be more inclusive, more creative, more representative, more progressive. And so that's why I'm just trying to help make the shift. And I think by helping schools not only hire, but retain this diverse talent, I think then we help create environments where everyone feels seen and heard and valued. And then we are improving the outcomes for all students, right? I don't know.
I know. No, you know. You
I mean,
definitely know.
I'm so committed to it, but even when I hear myself talk, it's common sense, it's best practice. So sure, there's frustration sometimes in why is this just not being done? I get.
I know. And like you're saying, it's like we think again, going back to that international, we hear international. Because sadly, I was on in the last week with a group that does some recruitment work, and they were talking about how there were parents and you're a parent. So I'm sitting there listening, I'm like, she's not only, the professional piece, but the personal piece, you're a parent. And you're saying, I want a school where my themselves, and not even last week, someone was saying a certain school somewhere in the world was saying how parents were complaining because they didn't want certain quote unquote accents at the school. And I'm like, I literally had to pause. I'm like, now look, I have an accent. The person on the phone with me has an accent. We can line up. I'm gonna get 10 more people. So it's just like, again, this, I think at times this coded language. It's like, okay, so what kind of now we have a hierarchy of accents. And it's sad because internationally, globally, we want, like you're saying, that table. I mean, that table, like we hear, it's we're rebuilding, we're creating tables that haven't existed. They looked a certain way. Only certain people got in certain chairs. And so I'm just reminded that it's like you're saying, sometimes it's frustrating, but we know, like we're saying, we're thinking about our why and our commitment to this work, knowing the impact it'll have. And our scholars recognize this. They recognize this at an early age. I had a story from Southeast Asia where a scholar that was primary age, elementary, was like, went home and told his parents, I have a teacher that looks like me.
Yes. It makes all the difference. I've had those experiences with my own students. I had that experience when I stepped onto my college campus, right? Which was a completely different experience than my high school, middle school, and elementary. And it's life-changing, it's affirming. And I think, to your point, what you mentioned about that conversation is, not only do we want our faculties and leaders to represent the vibrant diversity of our students, they need to represent the communities they serve as well, right? That broader international community, right? And so really helping everyone who's responsible for these decisions to understand this work and to make it easier. So to go back to your point earlier as well, Alan and I have heard, and Alan is my partner and the founding director of the Diversity Collective. We've heard schools say, we'd love to diversify our faculty, but we don't know where to look, or we can't find them. So we literally built a platform. So we said, here they are, right? Everyone you see here is self-identified as being from an underrepresented group. So start here. We are trying to be a part of the solution, and as well as what you heard with parents, maybe, or people from within this community talking about accents. We have heard, and it's really troubling to say, well, sure, we'd like to diversify, but we're not going to compromise on quality or qualifications. And it is not only offensive, right? But it's inaccurate. There are incredibly talented, gifted, skilled educators of color, right? Incredibly gifted women leaders ready to be heads of school. You're not compromising on anything, but you also have to create systems and communities that are ready for this diversity and this shift and change, right, as well. And we have to support people to be successful. Sorry, I was talking too much.
Oh no, no sorries. Keep it coming and keep it going. Because I mean, you're right on. And I like to say AIELOC, because of a recruitment issue. Literally, like that was the whole gist, being a sponsor and being a source of a resource for a colleague, and her being told, and like you're saying, this whole, I heard that too, the best, we hired the best, and they just so happen to look a certain way. I'm like, again, like, what, huh? Because I know plenty of PhD, EDD certifications from here till the, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, that's not an issue, but it's, again, knowing more about the diversity collectives, knowing more about AIELOC, knowing more about organizations that are fully committed, that you'll consistently see, them engaged in the work. Yeah.
Exactly. And really supporting schools in this work, right? We have to get past, it would be nice to do, and that it is actually necessary and essential in order to be educating our students as well as we say we educate them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, because and that's a big one. I'm glad you said that too, as well as we say. So again, for school leaders who are listening to this, boards, parents, let's pull out the following things, pull out the vision statements, pull out the mission statements, pull out the values. When there's certain words that are there, we're preparing our global citizens, even underlining global and citizen, to be part of this ever-changing, diverse, multicultural society world. Those different, those words that we use. Again, when we look at our faculty in our buildings, does that mirror the words? So do the words match our actions? Yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely agree. All right, so I'm a dreamer. So our final question before we find out how folks can find out more about you and the Diversity Collective, obviously, is what is your radical dream for recruitment at international schools?
Okay, I love this question. And I'm also wonder aloud if it's really radical, right? Or is it just, to go back to what we were talking about, essential, right? For providing the best education for our students, as you noted, in a globalized world. So this is my radical dream, but again, I'll qualify it because I don't think it's necessarily a dream. It's just best practice, right? But ideally, I would love to see recruitment at international schools that are focused on creating diverse and inclusive communities, specifically of educators that truly reflect our global society. That would be my dream. And this means actively seeking out and hiring talented teachers and leaders from historically underrepresented backgrounds. It also means eliminating biases in the recruitment process, and it means providing equitable opportunities for advancement, and ultimately fostering a culture of belonging where all staff feel valued, right? And so they stay and grow and advance within your community as well. That's a little bit of it. I could keep going. I could talk about the pipelines we could create. I would love to see schools partnering with local universities and creating pipelines of local teachers coming into their schools so that they truly are representing the communities they're serving. I mean, there's so much we could talk about, but again, I'll push back on the radical dream and just say this is a necessity and essential for quality education, right?
Definitely. I love it. I love it. And again, it's what we're working towards and what we want to see. I sort of, like you're saying, close my eyes and think like 5 years from now, where will we be? What will it look like? And like you're saying, it's essential. It's not even an afterthought. There's no saying, oh, we would like to, but doesn't exist,
Or it's siloed, or it's if we have extra time or we have extra money or we have extra whatever, and we're missing this important element that this work needs to be embedded in what we do and who we are.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I think seeing like schools move into strategic planning with this is where we're seeing it, again, fully deeply embedded. They're thinking long term, around it, And again, acknowledging where they're at. I think that's a big piece too, saying, okay, this is where we're at, but we're not going to stay here. Similar to accreditation, it's like we're here. This is the work we need to do. This is how we'll know we're successful. This is what we need to learn.
I do believe like schools, some schools, most schools are maybe past why is this important, and just help me how. But even if you're in the why stage, that's okay. If your board members don't know why this should be a priority, come to us. We love helping boards understand why this work needs to be centered and part of the strategic goals. It's okay, like you said, to not know how or to still have questions. But it's not okay to say we're just not going to do it because we don't know how or we don't understand why, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because again, like you said, there's so much support that is available. So much support. And again, we see it globally at the same time. So that you are right. It's like to be in a no, oh, I didn't know, or I'm just hearing about the Diversity Collective, or I'm just hearing about, because different people are like, oh, I just heard about you all. Great. Now that how can we be a support? Who are you going to share it with? You're going to use this, right? Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's excellent. And I'm feeling really hopeful. I am feeling hopeful because schools, and you too, watching how you all have grown. We can get there. We can get there. And we're really just ultimately the people who are benefiting from this work are the students. And that is who.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, you're right. You definitely are right. All right, so we're getting ready to close, but where can people find you? Where can they find the Diversity Collective? On socials, on email, website?
Here, perfect. I'm going to share the slide with you. So to go to our website, just head over to www.diversityfair.org. I know that's a little confusing, but think of it as a job fair, right? If we're in the international world, we all know about job fairs. So diversityfair.org. And as I mentioned before, candidates can sign up for free. Incredibly reasonable rate for partner schools as well. And also I want to mention, Kevin, because we believe in accessibility, we also offer a sliding scale for schools. So if for some reason the partner rate seems too much for you, you're able to reach out to us, request a coupon, and we can discount it for you as well. What we're just trying to do is make this work of amazing teachers and leaders being hired and schools finding this diverse talent easier. That's our ultimate goal, right? So that's our website. You can email info@diversityfair.org if you have general questions. If you want to write me, it's Aparna@diversityfair.org. And you can also find me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Aparna. We appreciate you. We appreciate the work that the Diversity Collective is doing. And again, thank you for taking this time to share your why, more about you, more about the org. Shameless plug. Aparna will be one of our speakers at our virtual conference on the 3rd of November. We invite the global community to come on out. Her as well as Alan, they both are speakers. So we look forward to them sharing. And again, we just thank you. And again, we know that this work is possible. We really, truly know this work is possible. So thank you, Aparna, for all that you're doing. Thank you for Diversity Collective. Onward and upward.
Thanks, Kevin. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you. And yeah, I appreciate working with you and everything that you all are doing at AIELOC that I'm able to be a part of as well. It's terrific work. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.